Match day 16 of the Canadian Premier League went like this.
Musi and Bobio about taking the shot.
Flips it forward and Boma!
Yeah, the keepers came to the party and their performance and saves had a huge impact on this weekend's results. So here are what the results looked like at the end of match day 16. And before we continue, like, subscribe, and follow for more content and weekly recaps on the Canadian Premier League. We fly to Forge FC in Hamilton, where the Eagles of Vancouver downed the log leaders 1-0, and it was a very gritty performance by Vancouver, who recorded their 5th win in a row. While for Forge FC, they were up against a very tough and stubborn 4-4-2 defense, which they found it really tough to create chances, create openings, and when they did create openings, they were met by a very inspired Irving in goal, who finished the game on 7 saves. So while Irving was clutch at the back, the clutch player up front was Tiernoba, who I had mentioned last week, who against Atletico Ottawa was showing a bit more confidence, driving at defenders and creating openings, and he showed the exact same form against Forge FC, taking the ball on the half turn, driving at 4 defenders, and taking out 4 Forge FC players before poking the ball to Pechile, who had the simple task of just poking the ball in and giving Vancouver the only goal of the game. Now, of course, it could have been called offsides, but given the new rules, daylight offside rules that we have in the Canadian Premier League, Bobby Smirniotis will feel quite aggrieved as some calls, especially in the second half, went against Forge FC, especially the disallowed goal. I didn't see a lot in there, but now that is a defeat and their first home defeat since October 2024. So that shows the immense job that Vancouver FC had on their hands, and they passed with flying colors with a very resolute defense, and they walk away with the 3 points that keeps them in third. Are Vancouver FC in the title race? For Forge FC, it gives them time to rethink, regroup before their big game next weekend against who? You guessed it, Cavalry FC. Cavalry FC in second place traveled to Supra de Quebec looking to take advantage of Forge FC's slip. But that was not the case, as Supra de Quebec, who firstly claimed to have the best fans in the league. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. But besides the point, they took the game to Cavalry and they were creating loads of chances, getting shots away. Loic Kwemi was playing like someone who wanted to extend his lead at the top of the goal scoring charts. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be for Loic Kwemi, as Abu Sissoko got the opening goal in the second half for Super de Quebec, and it came down, beautiful play down the right side, a lovely lofted crossing to the back post, which Sissoko took down expertly and rifled the shot into the corner, and there was not much Ingham could have done about that. Although Perlman needs to be singled out because he wasn't too tight enough to Sissoko, allowed his man to get away from him too easily and execute a wonderful finish. And seeing as Cavalry conceded in the 80th minute, were they done and out? No, it's not part of their attitude. And if Nathaniel Edwards is not scoring, Warshevsky is not scoring, or Musa is not scoring, you can always rely on Kanisia Elva, who popped up at the near post with a late header from a corner from who else? You guessed it, Warshevsky once again with another assist. We're literally just here participating in the Toby Warshevsky show. But for Super de Quebec, it's a worrying trend, seeing as they had conceded 2 goals against the Wanderers a few weeks ago from near post corners. Also, defending corners, especially at the near post, is a weakness for Super de Quebec, which Cavalry FC duly capitalized on. And Tommy Wilden Jr. will take the point, given that it was a fantastic goal and they were not at their best on the day.
Second half, we were good, and I felt a bit unfortunate going 1 down, but it was a great goal.
So the draw takes Cavalry FC to 1 point off of Forge FC before their big game next weekend, while for Super de Quebec, they are picking up form and they sit in 5th position, just 6 points off of Atletico Ottawa in the last playoff position. To the home of the champions, and Atletico Ottawa were looking to bounce back from their defeat to Vancouver FC, and they did so with a comeback win against the Halifax Wanderers. And we started to see more of Leal's front foot style, more fluid, more attacking football with his 3-4-3 formation. And Atletico Ottawa were looking very fluid, creating triangles, moving the ball very well down the flanks, and creating the cutbacks that they were unfortunately unable to take advantage of until they were hit with a sucker punch by
Miguel Aria,
HFX Wanderers, who took the lead against the run of play. And it was very good build-up from Linder, who showed his great ball carrying skills from defense, breaking the line, and he picked up a very simple pass into Caligari, who had the simplest job of just rolling it in for Aria, who made a very good run down the channel, and his first time low rasping drive beat Kalongo at his near post. That's the second week in a row Kalongo has been beaten at his near post. So he will have to look at himself a little bit with that. And with Atletico Ottawa a goal down, a bit up against it, Halifax Wanderers were able to create more chances. And Carducci was someone who did not deserve to be on the losing side, coming up with 6 saves for the Halifax Wanderers. But if there's someone who deserves to be on the losing side, it was Isaiah Johnston, who missed 3 clear-cut chances to have extended Halifax Wanderers' lead, and maybe the result could have gone differently their way. But this is football. If you don't take your chances, what happens?
But twice, the third effort in the back of the net.
You get punished. And that is exactly what happened as Atletico Ottawa worked a short corner down the left. Again, those triangles layout is trying to implement. We could see good interplay, good interchange down the left side. The corner comes in and Halifax do not really deal with the ball in. And Bomeo rifled a fantastic volley back into the goal. And again, Carducci, who came up trumps with a lovely save, but he couldn't do anything about Arno being at the right place at the right time to play a clever ball across the goal line, and Garcia was there to tuck it in. And Atletico Ottawa's dominance finally paid off. It was a level game, and at this point, it could have gone anywhere. But Atletico Ottawa got the winner, and this goal I absolutely love because of the simplicity, the ball into the midfielder who switched the ball over to the left side, who had the brilliant first touch to drive at the defender, and he saw Balu Tabla in the box, passed the ball in. Balu Tabla's first touch on his right set him up perfectly, and his second touch on the left, a rasping shot into the top corner, and unfortunately not much Carducci could have done about that. So Balu Tabla with his 8th goal of the season, tying him at the top of the standings with Loic Kwemi. And Atletico could have stretched the lead with a penalty late on. But Chateau, unfortunately, with a very soft penalty, allowed Carducci once again to save the penalty and keep the score quite respectable for Halifax Wanderers, who walked away with a 2-1 defeat, and they stay languishing in 6th position, while Atletico Ottawa are still in 4th position. Our last game takes us to the battle of the bottom two as Pacific FC hosted Inter Toronto. And if there were 2 things you could bet on in this game, there were a defensive mistake and no clean sheet. And that is exactly how the game played out. Pacific went into the game without 2 of their starters in Bustos and Hurd off the back of their red cards, but it did not stop them from creating chances as they always do. And their first goal came from good work down the right. Krat picking up the loose ball, driving at the defense down the right side, and his delayed pass into Jan Tuali gave Tuali just that split second to make his move into the near post and tuck it in. And what a fantastic finish it was. And while it was a beautiful finish, you just have to wonder what the Inter Toronto defender was doing, because he had time to see Tuali move, he had time to react, but he was not able to get there ahead of Tuali to make the block. And Inter Toronto can be accused of being very reactive in their defending throughout the season, and not just this game. But both teams continue to create chances, with both Pavela and Himaras being called into action. And Himaras was another one of the top goalkeepers this weekend with 7 saves for Pacific FC. So it was quite an even game, and despite Himaras coming in clutch for his team, he let all his hard work go to waste, and you could call it maybe a moment of inexperience, a rush of blood to the head, but he rolls the ball out to an incoming Inter Toronto defender who just had the easiest job of lifting the ball over everybody. And just like that, the game was 1-1. So Pacific FC again get the goal, go a goal up, make a defensive error that brings the game back level. And Inter Toronto were not going to pass up that opportunity to bring the game back level. And after that, it could have gone anywhere. But again, neither team could find a finishing touch to extend or to establish a winning lead. And the game in Langford ended 1-1, bringing a wrap to match day 16. So here are what the results look like once again. And in the race for the Golden Boot, it is getting really tight as Atletico Ottawa's Balu Tabla and Super du Quebec's Loic Kwemi are both tied at the top on 8 goals. And this weekend's biggest winners have to be Cavalry FC, who narrowed the gap at the top to 1 point before they take on Forge FC next Saturday. So the battle of the top 2 is going to be very hot, it's going to be very intense, and we'll see who comes out on top. Vancouver FC as well have a shout for being another winner of the weekend, racking up their 5th win in a row and establishing themselves in 3rd position and raising the questions of if they could be in the title race. But that's it for this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Blockbuster game coming up next weekend. Let's see who has the bragging rights between the top 2.